Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be discussing strategies for leveling in TBC, leveling your warlock specifically. Not necessarily discussing whether you should be questing and mob grinding or doing dungeon cleaving, but talking about what talent choices are optimal for you. I'm going to be going over several different specs, talking about their pros and cons, talking about what you should do at level 60 and onwards towards level 70. But before I get into the bulk of the video, which is going to be going over the different specs, I'm going to briefly mention a few abilities that we either gain or change significantly from Classic to TBC. I'm not going to be talking about every single change and every single new ability, but just some of the more notable ones for your Warlock. But let's get into it. So the first thing I wanted to point out is the change to Curse of Elements. In Classic, there were two different curses that were similar, being Curse of Elements and Curse of Shadows. Curse of Elements giving Fire and Frost % damage and resistance reduction, and then Curse of Shadows doing the same, but for Shadow and Arcane. However, as soon as pre-patch comes out, it changes to just Curse of Elements. So, in like a raiding environment, you have a Warlock assigned to Curse of Wreck, a Warlock assigned to Curse of Elements, which will be the Affliction Warlock if you have one, and then other Warlocks are free to use a Curse of Agony or Curse of Doom if they choose. But I wanted to mention this. In my last video, I talked about this as well, and I said I wasn't sure if it's like the new rank of Curse of Elements that changes or not, but it turns out that doing a little bit of research, as soon as pre-patch comes out, you can expect Curse of Elements to change to this new version. The only thing that changes with improved ranks is the resistance number goes up as you improve your Curse of Elements rank. But yeah, that's the first notable change, I would say. Curse of Elements, very good. Fell Armor, not a huge one, but pretty nice. This is your new armor that you're using as a rule. Better than Demon Armor in most circumstances. It increases your healing taken, like healing that you've received, and also gives you some spell damage. Quite good. Incinerate, this is your new filler for Fire Warlock, as opposed to Searing Pain. It's better in many ways. There's more talents in the Destruction Tree that cater towards improving Incinerates. It's a longer cast, just more damage, and it does not have a threat modifier like Searing Pain. So, as a Fire Warlock, Incinerate is your new filler, and it's quite good. And you get it at level 64. So as you're leveling, once you're level 64, you can enjoy Incinerate. What I have on the screen is the level 70 version, but like I just said, you do get it at level 64. And then finally, last one I wanted to mention is Seed of Corruption. However, for leveling, doesn't really matter because you do not get it until level 70. But once you are level 70, if you don't know, I'll let you know, Warlocks are insane at AoE damage. Probably overall the best DPS in the game when it comes to large AoE, just because Seed of Corruption is so powerful. But for leveling purposes, doesn't really matter. But yeah, just wanted to mention those few things really quick. But now let's get into the bulk of the video. So I'm going to go over 4 specs. Some are catered more towards questing and mob grinding and PvP and stuff. And then some are catered more towards dungeon cleaving, which you may or may not be doing. But I have 4 specs. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons and just briefly go over a few of the talents. I'm not going to do an in-depth discussion on the talents for like level 70. I'm going to do a different video on that in the future. But this is focused on leveling. So this first spec I have, this is for level 70. This is like your default rating build. This is a Demonic Sacrifice Destro. 21 points in Demo, 40 points in Destro. Whether you're playing Fire or Shadow, this talent build is serviceable not just serviceable, like optimal for fire and shadow. Very, very good spec for rating at level 70. But of course, for leveling, we will not be level 70. So we have to remove 10 points. And the question is, do I remove them from Demo or from Destro? I think the answer is clear. You remove them from Destruction. It seems silly to remove them from Demo and have like 11 points in Demo, because everything in Demo is kind of just filler anyways, just to get Demonic Sacrifice. So it seems silly to be leveling without Demonic Sacrifice while you have points in Demonology. So we're going to, unfortunately, have to remove 10 points, and it's going to be the 5 in Shadow and Flame. We have to get rid of Flag and Backlash for the other, another 4 to make 9. Then 1 more point, just 1 Improve Immolate. So this is what the spec is going to look like at level 60. Then as you level, you just go Improve Immolate, become Flag, Backlash, Shadow and Flame. This spec will be very good for dungeon cleaving. Not as good, in my opinion, for questing. For questing, there are specs that you can kill mobs with better sustain, like either like a Demonology spec or an Affliction spec where you get like Siphon Life and stuff like that. You can kill mobs with this spec, certainly, but I don't think it's optimal. But for dungeon cleaving, this spec is very good, because, like I said, you don't get Seed of Corruption until level 70, and if you're dungeon cleaving with a halfway decent group, you're going to be doing a lot of AoE, and you still have 5 out of 5 like Ember Storm, and you get like Intensity and stuff, right? So your Hellfire will still be quite powerful, which will probably be the bulk of your damage for dungeon cleave groups, Hellfiring. And with the Demonic Sacrifice Imp, it's going to be quite powerful. Very good spec for dungeon cleaving, arguably the best. But I will say that I do think there is one more that is potentially better, and that's gonna be the next one that I talk about. But yeah, Demonic Sacrifice, Destro, very, very good for dungeon leveling. Not quite as good, in my opinion, for questing, particularly because on these new Anniversary realms, well, not really new anymore, on the Anniversary realms that are transitioning to TBC shortly, the servers are about 50-50 Horde and Alliance. So if you're questing, whether you want PvP or not is up to you. If you do want PvP, I'm sure you can find it very easily. But even if you do not want PvP, it will find you, certainly. So this spec, if you're sacrificing your pet, you're a warlock with no pet. You can do a lot of damage, but you have to like hard cast. It's just not quite optimal for PvP. Not the worst in the world, because you still get like Flag and stuff, but not optimal by any means. But moving forward, this spec I think will do very well. This is like a Shadowfury Nightfall build. Basically, it's the same points in destruction, but we get 1 more point, so we're getting Shadowfury. And then instead of Demonology, because we only have 20 points left, so we can't get Demonic Sacrifice, we're just going to get nothing in here and go down to Affliction to get the notable talents being Instant Corruption, Improved Life Tap, Nightfall, and Empowered Corruption. What I really like about this spec is that you get Shadowfury. And while leveling, if you're dungeon cleaving in particular, Shadowfury is going to be very, very, very strong. It's just a 0.5 second cast, only 20-second cooldown, big AoE shadow damage that comes with the stun. Very, very good. Pairing this with Hellfire, you can do some pretty good AoE. Even while leveling without Seed of Corruption, you can still do some very good AoE with this spec. And single target as well, of course. But this is level 70, so at level 60, we have to remove 10 points. And we're certainly not going to drop Shadowfury, so we're going to have to take them out of Affliction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's probably going to look something like this. And as you're leveling, level 61, or level 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. None of that really matters. All these talents kind of suck anyways. But then by level 66, you're able to start getting Nightfall, which is very nice. Level 66, 67, 8, 9, 70. Very fun spec. Not quite as powerful as the Demonic Sacrifice spec for like raiding and that kind of deal. But for dungeon cleaving, I would say that this is probably the best spec in the game for like doing heroics. Even at like level 70, because of course you don't have your Demonic Sacrifice, so you're losing 15% either fire or shadow damage. But you're gaining Nightfall, you're gaining Instacast Corruption with Empowered Corruption, and the big thing is Shadowfury. Very nice. And another upside to this spec when compared to the last one I talked about is way better for PvP. You're not sacrificing a pet, so you can have a pet out, whether that's a Fell Hunter, Succubus, Voidwalker, whatever you feel like. But you have a pet, and you have a Shadowfury. Very, very good PvP talent. A ranged stun, nearly instant cast. Very, very good. I would say you're much better off with a spec like this while questing because of the PvP that you will no doubt encounter. And if you don't want to just die to people, Shadowfury, very good. And you can change a few points around and get some more PvP focused specs or talents like Nether Protection and Soul Leech, two like really good PvP talents. But the focus of this video is assuming that you're trying to level efficiently and your main goal is not PvP. But if your main goal is PvP, you can opt for some PvP talents. With that said, Shadowfury Nightfall, I think at level 70 is going to be like your best dungeon spec anyway. So very, very good option for leveling. Personally, this is the spec I plan to level with for dungeon cleaving. Shadowfury, and then work my way down towards Affliction. But moving forward, let's talk about another spec. So this is an Affliction spec for level 70. Now I will say there's really two different ways of going about Affliction Warlock at level 70. And that is whether you get UA or Ruin. You might think, why would I play Affliction and not get the capstone talent? UA is a very good ability. And it is. But at the sacrifice of Ruin, it's hard to say. I think that you'll, as a rule, do more damage with a spec like this. Unfortunately, you have to drop UA, but you get Ruin. Because as a Affliction Warlock, of course, your main focus is your dots, maintaining your dots and that kind of deal. But your filler is still Shadowbolt. And without Ruin, your Shadowbolt is going to kind of suck when compared to any Warlock that takes Ruin. So I think at level 70, Affliction Warlock actually is going to look more like this for most people, dropping UA. But for leveling, so let's go back to like the other. Basically, you get Dark Pact and UA, or you get Ruin. But for leveling, as an Affliction Warlock, I would take UA. And I would just take the points out of Destruction. So if you have to remove 10 points, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, what I would do just to max out Bane is I would just lose Dark Pact for level. Dark Pact is nice. It's basically a slightly better life tap, but not the end of the world. So like if you're planning on leveling Affliction, I would be looking at something like this for level 60. And then level 61, I would probably get Shadowburn first. Level 62, get Dark Pact. Then just moving on, get your Devastation, Destructive Reach, and 1 point intensity. Affliction Warlock, how do I feel about this? I think it is a very, very good option for questing and mob grinding. You will just melt through mobs very fast and very efficiently with talents like Improved Life Tap, Nightfall, Siphon Life, Shadow Mastery, UA, Contagion, Soul Siphon. You can just very efficiently mob grind and quest with a spec like this. Plus, you are PvP capable, I would say. UA Warlock is not really something a lot of people want to mess with for PvP. So if whether you're looking for PvP or not, it's going to find you if you are questing. And I think that UA is a quite a good PvP spec for leveling. Quite good for sure. But yeah, Affliction Warlock, I think very good option for questing. For dungeon cleaving, I don't think it's quite as good because if you're in a good group, you're doing a lot of AoE, and your AoE ability really is Hellfire until it's level 70. So you're missing a lot of the talents that make Hellfire really good, like Demonic Sacrifice Imp, or Ember Storm, or Shadowfury for AoE. So I think for dungeon leveling, Affliction is suboptimal. Not awful, but suboptimal for sure. But for questing and occasional PvP, a very good option, I would say. UA Warlock. And then finally, let's talk about Demonology. This is an example talent build for Demonology at level 70. And then for level 60, basically we're just removing some points. You could either take 10 out of Destro or remove the 1 in Affliction and 9 out of Destro. The 1 point in Affliction is really just to make your corruption in line with the GCD. So corruption by default is a 2-second cast. 1 point in here makes it 1.6 second, and the GCD is 1.5 seconds. So with 1 point in here, you're not really being punished by a cast time that's longer than the GCD. It's 0.1 seconds longer. It's not the end of the world. That's why you take this 1 point. But yeah, for leveling, I would probably just take 1 out of here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'd probably level with something like this, 4110. And then as I'm leveling, first I would get Shadowburn, then I'd probably get the 1 in Improved Corruption, and then just move on down Destro. What is this spec good for? Well, everything, but mostly I would say questing. For dungeon leveling, you can certainly do well as a Demo Warlock. Felguard is quite strong, and a lot of these later talents in Demonology are very good for improving the damage of your Felguard. But where this spec really shines is PvP while leveling. Of course, at level 70 in Arena, you're probably most likely playing like SL. But for leveling, Felguard spec with Soul Link is not to be trifled with. Your Felguard is very strong. It has charge, it has cleave, it just does a lot of damage. And of course, you have a Soul Link. And a lot of good survivability talents like Demonic Embrace, Improve Hellstone, that kind of deal. Soul Link gets a nerf and a buff. For PvP, it gets a nerf, but for PvE, it gets a buff, right? So in Classic, it was a 30% damage transfer to your pet. Now it's only 20%. But the buff is that Soul Link used to give you 3% more damage, and now it's 5% more damage. But even with the nerfed version of Soul Link, this spec, while you're leveling, will be very strong for PvP, certainly. Not many people are going to really want to mess with a Soul Link Warlock while leveling. And as far as just PvP excluded, just questing and mob grinding and stuff, very, very good spec for questing very fast and efficiently. Because Felguard is very good. It's basically a little warrior with you. It has charge, cleave. I think it has like a stun too. Like it's a very good. It's gonna hold aggro on mobs quite well. What? It's bugging out. Anyways, like I was saying, very good spec for PvP, and there's going to be PvP if you're questing. So I think it's a very good option. And for dungeon leveling, I think it's still going to do quite well, but not quite as good as the destruction specs. But with that said, that's my thoughts. I think that, wow, at the very, well, the video's almost over. My thing's not working. Anyways, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. But I would say for dungeon cleaving, your two best options is the Demonic Sacrifice Destro or the Shadowfury Nightfall. And for questing, I'd probably lean towards either UA or Felguard spec. But yeah, that's the video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.